Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the BBC. This BBC has nothing to do with Britain. This is the BBC, the big Buccaneer channel, as in the Oceanside Pirates and Buccaneer Beach. Welcome to the BBC, the Oceanside station.
Coming to you from a car-sized drone hovering over Buccaneer Beach, this is the Oceanside station, created by born and raised OSIDers. This is the Big Buccaneer channel at www.osidebbc.com. This is episode 84 for April 1st, 2026. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a lot to talk about. We've got a lot of restaurant news. We had a sort of a major resignation at City Hall. We'll talk about that. We're going to be filling potholes in Oceanside. That's very important. And for our beach report, we're talking about the dredge that's starting, and we had a tragic drowning in the ocean last weekend. We're going to be interviewing Emily Gonzalez. She wants to be on your city council. She wants to be elected in November. For happy hour, we're going to the poorhouse. For our deep dive, we're going to talk about the interaction between Oceanside and the Marine Corps over the years. And for our meter reader segment, we're going to tell you about the OCEANKAMP wipeout. The wipeout at the OCEANKAMP Wave Lagoon that looks like it's never going to happen. Now, here's the news. All right, there was a major resignation with the city of Oceanside that took everyone by surprise. Last week, Darlene Nicandro, who is the Director of Development Services, who oversees planning and building and engineering, she resigned without any warning last Friday. And the city has announced internally that it's going to be searching outside to replace her. And we're going to be talking more about the exit of Darlene Nicandro at the end of our show in our meter reader segment. Now, this is important. Many people who drive know this to be a fact. Many of our roads need to be improved. And I know that from running over a few on Mission Avenue. And the GONSALEZ drivers I talk to in that shuttle that we should all support, and it runs Wednesday through Sunday, it's only $3 per ride. They tell me that there's so many potholes that we got to start doing something about them. Well, the good news is that there will be a new round of major road improvements starting in the summer. Now, we've got some 490 miles of road in Oceanside, and these 4 areas are going to be addressed with major road improvement projects this summer. And that would include the areas of Oceanside Boulevard and Mesa, Oceanside Boulevard and College, Mission Avenue and Mesa, and Mission Avenue and Mission Gate. Those 4 areas are going to get major repairs this summer. Now, I am told that if you want to report a pothole, call the city's main number, 760-435-3000. Tell them what you want to report. They'll put you through to the right people. And I'm told that very often, if it's just a pothole, they will repair it within a week or two. Now, additional to these major improvements coming in the summer, right now throughout the month of April, there are smaller repairs that are being done on Douglas, College, at El Camino Real. And to get more information about that, you can go to the city website and under the news, find out which areas specifically in April are going to be fixed. But these areas are smaller areas. The bigger areas that I talked about earlier, those major repair efforts are coming this summer. Now it's time for the Big Buccaneer Channel's Beach Report with the latest from Oceanside Lifeguard Lieutenant Greg Trebby filling in for Captain Tyler Berry. The dredge, long-awaited dredge that we've needed for so long because of all the sand that's been building up in the harbor, causing some of the boats in the harbor to experience some difficulty as they leave the mouth. Well, the good news is they're setting up the dredge pipes right now. They're putting them over the North Jetty, and they're going to dump all that sand in front of North Coast Village. And then once they put all the sand there, they're going to move it down the coast farther south, and they're going to go all the way down to Tyson Street. They expect, that it's going to be 18 straight days of dredging, and we're all looking forward to this. And so keep that in mind, and do not go in the water right where they're putting the dredge into the ocean, because there might be some toxins and some nasty stuff in that water. The Iron Man event came and went last week, bringing 3,200 athletes to town and an estimated tens of thousands, they say, visitors to coincide with the Ironman. Congratulations, no major problem. However, there was a coincidental ocean drowning, and that was discovered last Saturday, March 28th at about 4:20 in the morning. There was a call to the OPD, and of course the lifeguards responded with their MSU vessel patrolling out around the pier, which is where the announcement was, where the call was made about somebody missing, going out in the water around the pier. They didn't find anybody, but a body did show up about 10:50, and the body was taken to Tri-City Hospital. Of course, they gave the person CPR. But he died a few hours later after he was taken to Tri-City. So again, the lifeguards say, please do not go in the water unless there is a lifeguard present. And of course, there's not a lifeguard there at 4:30 in the morning. The SeaWorld rescue guys are coming up next week, and they're going to be helping the Oceanside lifeguards learn what they can do to help the animals, whether they be birds or sea lions, if they wash up on the beach. Luckily, there have not been too many other sea lions or birds washed up since that problem of a few months ago when there was all that toxin going on, and there was like an animal washing up at least once a week. Well, luckily, that's gone away, but they're going to come up next week and show our guards what they can do to sort of provide immediate first aid to this marine wildlife. And we should point out that through April, that's when all the kids are off on spring break. Vista is on spring break right now, and then Oceanside, I understand, goes on spring break next week. And so it's going to be a busy April for the guys at the Oceanside Lifeguard Towers. And then the first 2 or 3 weeks of May, it slows down, and then it goes gangbusters, of course, right after Memorial Day weekend. The water temperature is 66 degrees off the coast of Oceanside, California. Boy, do we have a lot of restaurant news for you this week. Kettle on Coast, located in the formerly Petite Madeleine building on the corner of Coast Highway and Pierview Way, opened April 1st, and they had a really good crowd there. And this is great news. They are going to keep the bakery going, the wonderful bakery tradition that was established by Petite Madeleine, and it's going to have a full kitchen, and it's run by Chef David Lay, who's going to focus on, he says, the inspired flavor rooted in the African diaspora. And so they want to be community focused. Of course, they're still going to have coffee there, but it's not just a coffee house. It's a inspired restaurant and bakery. Some of the items they're going to offer include the berry, now that's B-E-R-E, not the other berry, the berry spiced grits and Aleppo fried chicken. And that's what he means by African inspired. And the pastries, again, as we say, are going to continue on there. The hours of the new Kettle on Coast are 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 7:30 to 2:30 Saturday and Sunday. And Kettle on Coast follows two other kettles on, one of them in Escondido and one of them in Fallbrook. The Flying Pig celebrated its 15th anniversary last Sunday. And, of course, it started off on the corner of Wisconsin and Tremont, and then it ended up at its current site right near Coast Highway, and where Mission dumps into Coast Highway. It's on Mission. The employees of the Hunter Steakhouse are telling people, yes, the property was sold for $4.1 million, but the business is unimpacted. It's staying there. Everything's fine. Nothing to see here. I hope that they're right. And the Masters building, which was there for many years, as we talked about last week, it has a sign on it, on the window, painted, I should say. It says Mar and Fuego. And it sort of indicates that it's going to be, we think, a sort of a Mexican restaurant specializing in marisco, seafood, and broiler, but we don't know. We're trying to find out. They're keeping it very close to the vest about what's going to happen there at Masters. Jessica Waite, who is the co-owner of the Plot restaurant in South Oceanside, was awarded as a Woman of the Year award. That happened last Thursday at the Panikin restaurant in the back patio area they have there. There was 20 other local women who were also honored, and congratulations to Jessica. And it was all put together and presented by Assemblywoman Lori Davies. And the Mountain Mike's pizzas in Oceanside that closed a few months ago are still closed. Now, the other Mountain Mike pizza in Fallbrook has reopened, and we're led to believe that the other two in Oceanside may reopen. The other two Mountain Mikes may reopen depending on how things go at the Fallbrook restaurant. Now, there are two new businesses in Artist's Alley that just opened. Now, Artist Alley it's an alley just east of Coast Highway between Mission and Pierview Way, and they have two businesses there. Now, of course, Artist Alley is where they have those regular artist exposition outdoor area where they sort of sell things in booths, and they have local artist creations. That's what they focus on. And one of the new businesses that has opened there is a Dirty Craft Soda. it's called Soda Poppin', and it has this dirty soda, which, to my understanding, is sort of a specialized sodas, high quality soda with cream in it, maybe, and gourmet popcorn. That just opened, and that's at 222 North Coast Highway, which is actually in the alley, and also in the alley at 206 North Coast Highway is a second-hand store that just opened. Now, here's some news. A forbidden fiction bookstore has opened, and for those of you who say books are dead, don't believe it. God bless this gentleman who opened this. It's right there on Coast Highway, just north of the brand new barbershop that opened at the formerly Link Soul building. Now, this bookstore called Forbidden Fiction Books is at 528 South Coast Highway. We implore you to go by there and support them. And here's some big news. This is surprising. This is coming to downtown Oceanside on Seagaze, used to be First Street, and it's called the Blade Shanghai, and their name gives it away. It's right next door to the Blade Italian restaurant, former home of the Blade Tribune, the local daily newspaper until 1968 when they moved to South Oceanside. And that's where the Blade Italian restaurant is. Well, this is called the Blade Shanghai, and it's right next door to the Blade, and it has Asian food, as you can guess. And they're at 405 Seagaze, and in a location that used to be a barber shop. And that's to be opening in the next month or two. And a reminder here, the monthly classic car and lowrider show returns Wednesday, April 8th at the South O Brewing, and that's from 5 to p.m. And go by there and check out the cars and have a beer. And that's what's happening on the restaurant front in Oceanside. Just a reminder, there is much needed sewer pipe repair work going on in downtown Oceanside, and they're replacing 100-year-old clay pipes with brand new pipes, and it's happening now. Right now, they're focusing on the alleyway behind Myers Street between Seagaze and Wisconsin. And also a reminder that the Oceanside Historical Society's Christy Hawthorne, who is our historian, leads a walk of downtown Oceanside at all of our historical buildings, and that happens Saturday morning, April 11th at 9 a.m. You meet at the library, and it takes about an hour and a half to 2 hours, and of course it's free. Join Christy Hawthorne, our historian, Saturday morning at 9 a.m., April 11th. The Flying Pig has been called out by San Diego Magazine as the place that first put Oceanside on the map as a food destination. But do yourself a favor and do not forget that the Flying Pig Pub and Kitchen in downtown Oceanside has daily lunch specials built around their homemade pasta. Daily lunch pasta specials may include spaghetti or rigatoni or campagnelli, whatever pasta is made that day, drenched in bouillabaisse sauce. The Flying Pig Pub and Kitchen at 501 Mission with a magnificent homemade pasta lunch special from 11:30 to 4:30 weekdays. The Flying Pig is the place for freshly made pasta and weekday lunch specials. www.oceansidepig.com. All right, this is the Big Buccaneer channel, the Oceanside station. We're the BBC. We come out every Wednesday, and the podcasts are up forever. But we put a new one up every Wednesday. And today, April 1st, we're happy to speak with Emily Gonzalez, who is on the Oceanside Planning Commission, and she would like to be your city council person from District 2. Emily, thank you for joining us on the BBC.
Thank you so much for having me, Ken. I'm so happy to be here and chat.
Great. Now, first, we should point out, where is District 2?
So District 2 runs from Fireside, so like the east side of where the drive-in used to be, right, all the way to the border, the end of Oceanside. Has the San Luis Rey River, eastern chunk of the San Luis Rey River, and then north to Camp Pendleton. So that's sort of roughly the boundary. It kind of does a little dog-leggy thing, too, to get Guajomie and Jeffries Ranch in there, too, around North Vista.
So it's an interesting mix. Mm-hmm. It has a lot of apartments and mobile home parks, and it also has, the other areas that
single-family homes.
A little mm-hmm. bit more affluent. Mm-hmm. And that's a challenge for a candidate, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it can be, but it's also a strength, I think. We actually are living through a time in history where the words diversity, equity, and inclusion have become sort of vilified, but I truly believe in the promise of that. So I think where there are, diverse perspectives and lived experiences, real innovation can flourish if only we have leaders who act as facilitators to bring those voices together to collaborate with one another. So I love it.
All right. And let's talk a little bit about you. You're married, and you're married to a USMC veteran?
Yes. My husband, John, he served 27 years, just retired a couple years ago as a master sergeant. He joined, like a lot of our young folks do who come from poverty and communities of color. He joined actually when he was 17 years old. And, spent his career, his adult life. He grew up as a Marine, basically. And I think when last count, it was like 14 or 15 deployments, a bunch of combat deployments. And he just recently got his VA disability designation, and he's 100% service-connected disabled. So all of those years of service did not go without a lot of sacrifice on his personal part. And, families, communities, all of us have to sort of rally to allow him to do, and our other service members to do the work that they do for us.
All right. And you and your husband, John, have a daughter?
Yes, we do. Dylan. Actually, her birthday's this month. She'll be 15 years old. She's a freshman at El Camino High School. She is a leader in the Young Voters Club there, actually. So, yeah, she's one of the folks who kind of talked me into the city council race, actually.
Interesting story. You said that your daughter used to go to South Oceanside Elementary, mm-hmm. and then you went to Hawaii for a while, mm-hmm. and you came back, and you were going to have her reattend South Oceanside, but
yep.
something happened.
Right. Well, we were in Hawaii for a few years when she was in preschool, and when we got married, when we met, I was living on Lucky Street. And in fact, it's kind of a joke in our family, we met on Lucky Street and lovey-dovey, right? And we thought we were going to return to, because we always knew that Oceanside was our home, and the trip to Hawaii was just a short permanent, they call it permanent change of station, but it was temporary for us. So we thought we were going to, stay in South Oceanside, but just over the span of those few years that we were in Hawaii, things changed a lot. So that was like 2012 to 2015. And we decided maybe we want to, look further inland, and we kind of fell in love with the valley. And that's where we decided to, purchase a home and set down our roots and really become members of, neighbors and community members there.
All right, this is the Big Buccaneer channel. We're speaking with Emily Gonzalez, who wants to be elected to District 2. Now, that's a 4-year term, mm-hmm. and it serves the northeast east quadrant, generally, of the city of Oceanside, and you're running against incumbent, first-term incumbent Rick Robinson. And do you have any explanation, any comparisons, any juxtaposition thoughts about how you are different from Rick Robinson or what he stands for or what he's all about?
I mean, so, in typical political fashion, we're sort of finding ourselves pitted against one another. And I truly believe anybody who kind of steps in to serve, I trust they have the right instincts driving them. And sometimes the values are misaligned, right? So over last summer when the council was presented a resolution to raise the pride flag over the Civic Center Plaza, and he voted against that, that really troubled me because our LGBTQ community are really undergoing a whole lot of targeted hate and being made to feel like they don't belong. I thought it was a simple but powerful gesture to let folks from a marginalized and frankly harmfully vilified community that they belong here, that they're seen here, and we're going to care for each other. So on that really troubled me. I've also been, in my own organizing in the Valley, and which is really, organizing seems to have like this kind of political angle, but it's really just neighbors helping neighbors, at its fundamental core. I just don't see a lot of the council member rolling up his sleeves and getting to work with his neighbors down there. So, I'm not seeing his presence, and it's missed by my neighbors. Like, where is he? Why isn't he showing up with us to do this good work or at the events we host and that sort of thing? So just as a representative and a voice for the diverse community. Now, District 2 is more diverse than any of the other districts. It's got more people of color. It's got, funnily enough, it's also got the highest number of college degrees and graduate degrees. It's an interesting, diverse community over there, and I really feel like the leader that District 2 needs is someone who can sit down and talk to folks that are different than them and bring folks to the table to collaborate with one another. So,
all right. So nice thoughts.
Yes.
But the big issue is always when you run for office is the M word. And that's money.
Yep.
And he's raised, as of December, $28,000. You only raised about $1,000.
Yeah.
That seems to be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, so also like we file those papers. That was like I think a month of me just doing some operational stuff to get the campaign going, to file my paperwork, and you've got to file that last campaign report. So I think we had only been up and running for a few weeks, so I wasn't surprised. And I know, I actually had some experience in politics. I know that those numbers mean a big deal to a lot of people. He's had that money for over a year probably, right? So okay, that's fine. And I don't expect that our campaign is going to raise the same amount of dollars as Robinson's campaign. But I my own, here's where like my kind of geekiness is going to come through. I studied social capital generation in graduate school and really wanted to sort of understand the value of that as a resource for communities in all sorts of ways, in building businesses and running campaigns and in whatever way. And social capital, when you are able to build deep trust with folks, is actually more valuable than financial capital when it comes to all of these things. So that's what our campaign is running on, social capital. That doesn't mean we don't have to raise money. Please do contribute if you can at d2oside.org. But our campaign is really about people power. So that's what I have to say about that, I guess.
All right. And so you've been on the Planning Commission for a couple years or 1 year?
About a year now.
A year now. And what have you learned about land use and planning, and what were some of the votes you were happy with and some of the votes you were unhappy with on that, you might have been in the minority that you participated in while on the Planning Commission?
So let's start with what I've learned. A whole lot. One of the reasons that I actually kind of threw my hat in the ring and applied to be on the Planning Commission was because it really sits at the intersection of so much that's going on in a city and in Oceanside specifically. Tackling a lot of the constraints or guidance that the state's providing us around creating affordable housing units and that sort of thing. But I did not come from a planning background or an architecture background. I'm just a geek who moved to Oceanside over 20 years ago, and one of the first things I did was read our general plan and get a library card. So I really wanted to understand and to learn. One of the things that has kind of become apparent since I've been on the Planning Commission is that it's not common for folks to reveal up on the dais just how little that they know about process. So I'm not afraid to ask those kind of questions because we really did not get much onboarding other than don't violate the Brown Act, which is, because I worked at the state legislature, that's fine. I understand that. And I don't plan on breaking the law or being unethical. I really want to understand how the process works so that I then can help educate others and my neighbors and my community how the process works and how they can engage. So the packets that we get come on a Thursday, and the commission meets on that following Monday, right? Mm-hmm. So the package that we got was huge. It was like a banker's box of stuff. Wow. And there was no way I was going to be able, and mind you, we're volunteers and we still have full-time jobs, and we couldn't really talk to anybody on planning staff until Monday, and it was hard to get in touch with folks to ask questions. So I actually abstained from the vote because there was no way that I could have digested all that information.
Well, that seems to be a problem. I mean, how can you be expected to learn everything over a weekend?
Exactly. I mean, and I've kind of learned some habits now that help me. I can get started. I can look back and see where things are expected to come to council, so start doing my homework earlier. But at this point, I think, I was fresh maybe like a couple of weeks in, and I was still learning how everything worked, and I abstained for that reason. And then I was sort of chastised, like, you can't abstain unless you've got a conflict of interest. And I said, no, I I think it's incumbent on me to abstain from a vote if I don't have all the information.
Fair enough. Well, that's a really good point. And by the way, I should add here that we welcome Rick Robinson onto this podcast should he wish to come on. He is the incumbent. You're running against him, and we'd love to talk to him if he'd like to drop by. I'm going to forward this edition to him, and with a note saying we'd love to have you on if you want to come by here and talk to us. One of the things Mr. Robinson has done is he took $5,000 from a gentleman by the name of Howard Jacobs, who is loathed by people throughout the city for his hideous projects that he's proposed. 2 of them got approved, including even with the denial of staff, but nevertheless they were approved, but they're just sitting there. What do you think about your opponent taking $5,000 from a developer? I mean,
that's pretty much the top of the limit. I mean, that's the most that is problematic for me. That our council folks are the ones appointing planning commissioners. So essentially, they are playing a role in, and they get, ultimate say if a developer appeals a planning commission ruling. I find that problematic. I mean, and that's kind of the big argument around, the problems of money being involved in politics in general, right? We can't always, we leave it in the hands of the electeds to, for themselves, decide if there's a conflict of interest when it comes to donors and votes. And I don't think they always make the right choice there. I think the best choice is just not take the money. I'm not taking any developer money because I want to be fair to the people and have them know that I'm not bought out by anybody.
This is the Big Buccaneer Channel, and we have been speaking with Emily Gonzalez, Planning Commissioner, who wants to be your city council person from District 2. And now, it's time to take a deep dive into Oceanside's deep, rich past. It's Deep Roots, Deep Dive. All right, we've all been told that our President Donald Trump is sending 2,000 Camp Pendleton Marines to the Middle East. God knows what that's going to bring. We can only hope and pray for their welfare. But that's another topic for another show. But what we wanted to do today in our deep dive segment, we wanted to talk about how the USMC has interfaced with Oceanside over the years. Now, as someone who was born and raised here in Oceanside, we do know that the Marine Corps made Oceanside multi-ethnic as soon as the Camp Pendleton base was opened in 1942, bringing people of all kinds of races, black folks, Samoan folks, all kinds of people came here to join the Hispanics and the Asian folks that were already here, making this place a true melting pot. And we remember back in the day, in the 70s and maybe late 60s, the quality of the Marines was brought up. And many people complained that they were sort of accepting anybody who would join, and people were many times, let's say you're in the South, you were told go to jail or join the Marines. Well, they joined the Marines, and there were some complaints that some of the quality of the Marines maybe wasn't top notch. Well, we went through that. The Marine Corps upped its standard decades ago, and that's my understanding. And, of course, we don't really have that problem now. The Marines are much better behaved than they were back in the day. But my friend Bill Marquis told me that there was a time back in the 60s and 70s when the military police would collect these bad behaving Marines, and they were rough with them with billet clubs and what have you, and they would handcuff them to poles in downtown Oceanside. And then the military police had a little trailer, a little headquarters in downtown Oceanside. I think it was on the corner of, if I'm not mistaken, it was where the parking lot is now, where they have the band on Main Street, I think on the corner of Tremont and Pierview Way. That's where this trailer was for the military police. And the military police stopped patrolling in downtown Oceanside, I think in the 80s or thereabouts, but they were always around, and they were always popping the bad behaving privates who would hang out at the local bars. Now, some of the local bars back in the day that were frequented by the Marines include, I should say, the Normandy, the Copper Door, the Long Branch, the Rusty Spur, the Townhouse, and then, of course, the Bottoms Up and Duck Inn, and the 101 Club, which were on North Coast Highway. Then it was North Hill Street. And those North Hill Street bars were right next to a business called Pend Mart, which was just a little store on the north end of Hill Street, now Coast Highway. And, of course, the city of Oceanside used to be overrun with dry cleaners and surplus stores. And surplus stores meant when you get out of the Marines, you'd go there with your camouflage uniform and sell them your no longer needed camouflage and other uniforms. And that's why they were called surplus stores. Well, there's a few of them still around, but of course they have decreased over the years. Now, downtown Oceanside was really wild and unruly. I think the peak year of that was 1975. That spurred the redevelopment of downtown, wherein the city bought a couple blocks of downtown right now where the Regal Theater is now. And the city actually condemned certain businesses and took over those businesses over by eminent domain. And that was quite the time. But you can pretty much say that all those scary businesses are long gone, part of our memory in Oceanside. Now, over the years, the Marine Corps has contributed to our city council. The mayor of Oceanside for much of the 90s was Dick Lyon, who was in the Navy. We also had Paul Graham, who was the mayor in the 60s, and he was an officer in the Marines. Of course, Rocky Chavez, who was on the city council for many years. He's now on the board that oversees Tri-City Hospital. He was a colonel in the Marine Corps, I think lieutenant colonel. Christopher Rodriguez, who was on the council for 4 years. He was on for just 4 years, and he was replaced by Rick Robinson 4 years ago. And Nancy York was on the council, I think, from 1990 to 1994. She was a Marine Corps attorney. I think they'd call them JAG officers. And Sam Williamson was on the council in the 80s and 90s, and he was brought to Oceanside by the Marine Corps. And let's see, what else is happening? We told you about the substation that used to be there on Tremont and 3rd Street, now Pierview Way. And there is also a USO. And from what I'm told, there was a USO on Tremont and 3rd Street, now Pierview Way. And that was later moved to the building, which is now been torn down and is now where the downtown fire station number 1 is located. Well, there used to be a USO for all the Marines to hang out as a place to go to when they were away from home. I don't think there's any more USOs anymore in North County.
Delicious. I like it too. Yes, I do like it. Delicious.
It's time for happy hour. That time on the Big Buccaneer channel when we highlight an Oceanside eatery or night spot that features food or drink specials during happy hour or any time they choose. This time we look at the Poorhouse. Now, ladies and gentlemen, they really do have a wonderful food special. They have a lunch special Monday through Friday, and it's all day long from when they open at 11 o'clock, and you get a half sandwich. This is their lunch special. A half sandwich and a soup or a salad for $9.95. I just had it yesterday, and it's wonderful. The sandwich you can get would be turkey and bacon, or a Reuben, or a French dip. The soup is normally either French onion or potato, and that's all day long. And they're for happy hour on Tuesday, which is Taco Tuesday. They have margaritas for $3.50 or $4.50, and that's all day long on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, it's Wing Wednesday, and their Coors Lights are $3.50, and their wings are just $1. That's at the Poorhouse on South Coast Highway in Oceanside on the 1900 block of South Coast Highway, right next to Kelly Street. Excellent happy hour.
Delicious! Oh, have some more. Get the waiter and bring it. Put on the paper hat. Get out the lamp. I even like the cork.
Now it's time for the Oceanside Meter Reader, the segment where we gift a local person, place, or phenomenon on its degree of wonderfulness or worthlessness, with a rating from Que Magnifique down to nuclear dumpster fire. Well, we told you about the resignation, the abrupt and surprising resignation of the Director of Development Services last Friday from the city of Oceanside. Darlene Nicandro oversaw the planning department, building department, and engineering departments. Nobody had any idea that was coming. My interaction with her was by email, and I said, it's my understanding that the OCEANKAMP, the Wave Lagoon is not happening. And she basically responded by saying that, we're just trying to find out what the developer of the Wave Lagoon wants. I'm paraphrasing here, of course, but she says, we're working on it, and we're hopeful, and we're trying to find out what they want. Well, it's been years. And what happened with the city of Oceanside is that the 92 acres OCEANKAMP project was sold to the city, that it's going to be a combination condo development and a park, focusing on the Wave Lagoon. In other words, you got perfect waves every 15 or so minutes, and it's a beautiful thing, and we're going to have hotel, and we're going to have restaurants, and it's all going to bring all these people to the OCEANKAMP Wave Lagoon. Well, what the city did a few years ago, it divided, after the council approved the project, they divided it into two 46-acre areas, roughly 46 acres. Half of it is condos, half of it is the wave park. And come to find out, the condos are moving ahead, full speed ahead, and nothing has happened with the Wave Lagoon. And we've reached out to talk to the folks who own it, and that's the Palm Springs Surf Camp, and they're not talking to anybody. They're not talking to the city of Oceanside. This is not happening. This is a scam, and these things happen, but how could they have possibly agreed without a vote of the council to allow the property to be divided into two and to let the condos proceed? I think that's an ultimate scam, and the councilman of that district, Rick Robinson, has some splaining to do. not a peep from him or anybody else on the city council. Here at the Big Buccaneer channel, we've been the only entity to tell you that this is not happening. And this is a scam, and we find this to be reprehensible. For that gets the city of Oceanside and the planning department under the recently resigned Darlene Nicandro, the worst possible Oceanside meter reader ranking. It's a viral virus. It's a soiled diaper on the picnic table. It's this week's nuclear dumpster fire.
Oh no, oh no, oh no.
That wraps it for episode 84 for April 1st, 2026. This is the Big Buccaneer channel at www.OSIDEbbc.com. It is the Oceanside station, and we put a new podcast up every Wednesday. And remember, all we talk about is Oceanside stuff. We'd love to hear from you. We're at 442-452-2623 or email us at osidebbc@gmail.com. Many thanks to Emily Gonzalez, who stopped by to talk to us. She's on the Planning Commission. She's running for City Council. We would love to hear from her opponent, Rick Robinson, the incumbent. Also, thanks very much to Lieutenant Greg Trebby, to fellow Oceanside born and raised dude Bill Marquis, who helped us with our deep dive segment. Special thanks also to City of Oceanside's Patty Mosier and Terry Goodman Brown, and of course to our own audio producer engineer Von Ramirez. And until next week, this is Ken Treadway saying thank you, Oceanside.